Okay, I think we are live. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am super excited for today's guest. So, Jon Marino, I got introduced to him through Joe, who is an awesome person. He's been on the podcast. He's helping me create a group training program. And Jon is the creator of AMP, which is the Content Monetizer Strategy. And he's the founder and CEO of QueueSimple. So Jon's strategies and campaigns have been used to grow his clients' businesses a staggering 23 times in 6 months, generate a month's worth of sales in 4 days, and turn YouTube videos into revenue generators without YouTube monetization. Is that right? Did I say that right?
Yeah, you said it right. That's right.
What? Okay. Well, first of all, I'm like, people, how'd you do that? Hold on. First of all, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's a real joy to be joining you here.
I love it. So tell us a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now.
My story actually started, I'll give you the middle first. I started taking clients in 2014.
Okay.
I took clients part-time while I worked at a full-time job. And then I transitioned to taking clients full-time, not a couple years ago now. And it all started in 2003 when I joined an email list, oddly enough. And I at that time, you know, it was weird to put your email in an email form and click the submit button.
Yeah.
And I slaved over this for 3 or 4 days. And what ended up happening is the information that I got inside that email newsletter was so valuable, I shared it with a friend. And then maybe about 6 months to a year later, that same friend and I were talking, and I said, boy, that guy's stuff is really, really good. It's really helpful. And he said, yeah, he's a really good marketer. And I said, oh, that's exactly what it is. And I made that decision then. I was working at that time as a civil engineer, and I made that decision at that point that that's the type of business that I wanted to have, was to either be doing that or helping my clients do that. And that's exactly what I'm doing now.
Okay. So you went from being a civil engineer to a marketer.
By way of becoming a respiratory specialist. So managing life support systems is kind of this interesting.
But it was a natural path. Absolutely.
So what ended up happening is I worked full-time as a civil engineer. I was working on some really cool projects. I enjoyed it, but it really sucked the energy out of me. It was something to where I was working 50, 60, 70 hours a week sometimes. And it just drained me. So I had no time to go and build this business that I really wanted to. 2008 came along, and that's when the whole market fell apart and all that stuff. I was laid off on December 19th of 2008. And I said, okay, let's go do that business that I wanted to do. And then I was like, I don't know how to do that. I have no skills. How am I going to do this? So I ended up going back to school. I got an associate's in what's called respiratory therapy. And I ended up specializing in managing life support systems for babies and kids. And during that time, I was self-studying marketing and communication and how to do all the things that I really wanted to end up doing ultimately. And while I was going through the program, I was actually applying that stuff to the program. So I got hired as a tutor, and I was marketing my tutoring sessions to the students who were within that program. I was always full. I don't know that there's been a tutor since I worked there, nor before me, that was as busy as I was. A lot of times they struggle to fill their sessions, and I was just busy all the time because I was applying the things that I was learning. I went on to, I created a business within respiratory therapy, teaching other people respiratory therapy things. And then I realized, you know what? I think I really just want to help clients. So I started taking clients part-time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Question for you. When you were building your business, did you find it challenging having a job while trying to get this entrepreneurial thing going? Like, did you get it going while you were still working as a respiratory therapist, or
100%.
was it really?
Yeah, I did. But the really cool thing is that in the hospital, like in the medical field, you're working like 3 days a week typically.
Wow.
Okay. So you're
Okay.
working
Okay. So
12s.
you,
So
yeah.
12s, yeah, 12s are like they're hard, they're laborious, right?
Mm,
But I only have to get ready 3 times a week. I only have to
mm.
drive to work 3 times a week. I only have to come home from work 3 times a week. And if I position it right, then I can have 4 days a week essentially to work with clients and to learn my
Mm.
skills and really ease myself into it. I took the ease myself into it approach. It took a long time, but I think I'm better off for it. And I had a lot of fun doing it.
I think that's so smart. I did the hard cutoff where I'm like, you know what? I'm someone who performs good under pressure. Let's just figure that. And I did the hard cutoff where you start your own thing. And I spent my first, a while, like probably my first 4 months ish of being in business for myself, terrified,
Right,
not scared, not stressed, like fucking terrified.
right.
I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die under a bridge. This will never work. No one's ever going to be my client. Like, it was crazy stressful. And it's
It
all
is.
self induced, but I don't know if there's a way around that. Like, we all have to go through that transition of just kind of learning to trust ourselves and what we can offer, which is a huge thing.
Yeah, you make a really good point. It is scary. It's hard.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
it's one of the hardest things I've ever done. And um, I I had a lot of limiting beliefs that I mean, I was an engineer for God's sakes. I just wanted to like sit around and play with numbers. I mean, like
To
to go and
calculations.
actually like really talk to people and learn how to interact with people. It it
Mm.
was hard, and I was even more terrified than somebody who can just go and talk to a stranger on the street type of thing.
This is really cool because it's making me think. Do you think that would you call yourself an introvert naturally?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep.
Do you think that like, I would say you're probably on way, like if it's a spectrum, you're like introverted, right? Like you're like all the way over, you're an engineer, you're good with not talking to people. Do you think that having that observer nature helped you with helped you with marketing or hurt you?
It's a really really good question, and I think it's very insightful. I tend to recharge myself by being by myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the projects that I take that are hobbies, they're usually um, not very social in general.
Mm.
They're oftentimes technical. I set myself up with projects and hobbies that challenge me to get outside of my uh, typical thought processes to teach myself how to think in different ways. The
Mm.
engineering really helped me to be able to reverse engineer the marketing processes. Um,
Cool.
but you also have to understand at the same time, I was going into the tech side of marketing also. So I was going into building websites and making my sites look the way that I wanted them to, and the buttons look like they were in the right position and the right
Mm.
size and integrated with all the right softwares. So as I go and I build a team, the advantage that I'm having right now is I'm able to communicate with them and help them solve their problems that they're working through on integrations because I can talk the
Right.
language. I can talk the language. I've worked through a lot of these problems in the past, and it makes it more simple for me to be able to um, work through certain issues. There's an issue that we were working through recently where we were trying to integrate a webinar in a new way, and there's a problem that we're working on right now where we're working with a new software and we're trying to integrate a free level of membership. And
Mm.
the gentleman that works with me, my team is fantastic. The gentleman who works with me on the tech side, we sit there and we have a techie conversation, and it would turn most marketing people off, frankly. But I'm able to have that conversation and help him through that, and he helps me through it too.
That's awesome.
That's a lot of fun.
And it's really cool that you not only learn both sides of the spectrum, but you really embrace them. Like you have fun with the techie side, you have fun with the people facing side. And I think it can make it so that you don't, regardless of what's on deck that day, you don't dread it, which is
Yeah.
big. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I
So,
have a lot of fun. But what ends up happening to expound on what we were talking about. So I went and I
yeah.
reverse engineered this idea, right? I reversed this idea of marketing funnels to start.
Right.
And I took a training in marketing funnels and was like, I already reverse engineered this. I'm on the right track.
Mm.
I learned a lot in the program, but uh, you know, it was like, wow, it was a confidence booster. Like,
Oh,
oh, I actually get it.
nice.
I actually get it. I'm making progress. So it was really cool there. And now it's turned into reverse engineering business systems so that so I'm
Oh,
able to start scaling, so that I'm able to say, okay, this particular person needs to serve this particular function, and this particular system within the business needs to do this particular function as well. So it it's worked out overall, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been, like I said, very challenging and very rewarding as well.
I love that you brought that up. I think it's a perfect segue because when we're talking about creating content that creates recurring revenue,
Sure.
most likely it's going like the way that you would probably set it up for a private client is it needs to have a system around it. And I know that for a lot of people, even people, I'm not even talking about newbies, like even people that are experienced, have been in business for a while, really don't have any type of a system
Don't.
around their content unless it's a launch or something orchestrated. But day
Yeah,
to day, there's really not much of a system.
there's
And it's
not.
something that I've guessed and tested a lot with. But to be honest, I haven't found a sweet spot where I'm like, this is what we're doing, like this schedule, this type of stuff for the next 2 years. So talk to us around how you like how you think through that and the different ways that you can incorporate content in your business.
The a lot of times people are already creating content,
Right.
right? Like, we're creating content right now, right?
I
You're
know.
going to go and you're going to take this live broadcast and you're going to repurpose it and you're going to use it inside of your podcast, right?
Yeah. And on Instagram and
And on
everywhere. Heads up.
Instagram, you're going to repurpose it outward,
Yeah.
right? Um, are you going to strip segments of it out and put it on, say, a YouTube platform as well?
I'll probably put the whole thing on YouTube,
You'll put
but
the whole thing.
if I was more organized, I would probably strip segments
Well,
out.
as you develop more resources and the ability
Yeah.
to make that happen, that's one thing that you can start doing.
Mm-hmm.
But what's wild is you could take this entire interview, you
Mm-hmm.
could get it transcribed, and you could pull sections out of it, and now you have written content.
That's
Right.
true. Yeah.
You take the written content sections, and obviously the spoken word is easier to hear than it is to read, right? So you have
Mm.
to go and clean up that transcript and make it flow. But then that becomes another piece of content. And then
Mm.
this there's one medium of reaching out to people that are in our tribe or in our group that um, that I really, really, people say it's dead. People say email's dead, but to me, it's one of the only things. And that might be a risky thing to say, especially in InstaFame, right? But the idea is that Instagram, Facebook, the social media platforms, they really control your ability to reach the people that want to hear from you in the first place,
Massively. And
right?
this and I love that you're bringing this up. This is something I talk about a lot in the sense that like I work with entrepreneurs, business owners.
Sure.
So, when I post something, I'm not getting in front of 29,000 people. Like even if you have like 500 followers, you're not getting in front of 500. It's just the way it works.
That's
And you
right.
don't own those people. This is really important. When you're on social, you're in somebody else's playground. It's
That's
kind of
right.
like when you're driving outside, you own your car, you don't make the rules of the road,
That's right.
right? They can decide to pull you over for whatever. So, but emails, you own that.
Right. You own the contact information essentially. So
Totally.
here's a hypothetical situation that is um, it, it's becoming a little bit more obvious to people. I think that if you're talking about natural health, if you're
Mhm.
talking about politics, if you're talking about current events, there are certain things that the social media platforms are encouraging you to say, and they'll get you in front of as many people as possible. And there's certain things that are a little bit more risky, and you're not going to be seen as often. Now, that is an unpopular opinion, I think, at this point still, but I think more and more people are starting to see that, and they're starting to feel that in the amount of reach that they're getting. The other thing that's not as risky to talk about really is the idea that there's more and more people on the platforms. So you can't have the same amount of reach with more and more and more and more people coming on. There's going to be some accounts that are going to be favorited in a way, or given preferential treatment in those cases. Now, the thing is like, let's take it to the extreme, and let's say that you're talking about a natural health that's a little bit on the borderline of what is commonly accepted, and they say, okay, you crossed a line, you're done. You just lost your entire following. You lost everything. All your people. You lost everything. If you have an email list of people, and these, backing up, these are people that said that they want to hear from you. They want to hear the information that you're talking about, right? But the social media platform says, not so much, right? If you have a subscriber list of people who also want to hear from you, well, that's your asset. And there's pros and cons to it. There's open rates, there's click-through rates, there's all the same things that people talk about, but you can go to a different email platform and email from a different email platform and take that list with you from place to place. You can't take your Facebook group to your Instagram.
That's true. That's a really good point.
Right. You have to give them a call to action. They have to, go over to Instagram and click the button. Right.
Yeah. And it's one of the biggest things that I encourage is when you're growing your social with a purpose, like you have a service, a product, a message that could really do good in the world if you could get it out there.
Right.
In terms of the link in your bio, like when we set this up, you're like, hey, what should I put for the link in my bio? I was like, well, don't put Linktree, because how many times have you seen an Instagram account? It has a Linktree link. You click on it, you see what they have, and then you just go away. Right. So you're like, oh, that's what they have. Okay. So you want to take people from whatever platform, we'll just say your social, from your social to your home as quickly as possible.
That's exactly it.
And that's right to where they can, if they want more of you, they can get it. Like nobody's forcing them to put in an email, right? But they get a pop-up, or they can get an opt-in if they put in an email, or just get your newsletter. But it allows you to stay in touch with your community in a very different, in a much more, I want to say
an
like
intimate way.
It's more of an intimate way. It's also more of a consistent way.
It can be. Absolutely.
People still consider checking email like part of their daily routine.
That's right.
Whereas I might even not get a notification that you posted on Facebook. I might completely miss it. Right.
That's right. Absolutely. Now there's nuances to getting your email open. There's email, different folders, and there's nuances to getting people your email delivered into the main inbox and things like that. But overall, you're hitting the nail on the head. You want to go home. Right?
Yeah, you want to take them home.
Right. You want to take them home, and you do that. And it's very insightful what you're talking about with regard to the InstaTree and just putting it on your own site. Right. So that's what we're talking about with content. Okay. Is we're talking about bringing it home, and we're talking about taking this interview, for example, and publishing it on a blog, let's say, and writing about it, but writing about it in a way that entices the reader to want to click the play button and listen to the interview. And then what we're doing is we're emailing our list to go watch on our platform.
Yeah.
And then one of the ways that we help to monetize that content is by tasteful, carefully placed advertising on the site that links either to your products or to products that you are an affiliate for or receive a commission on when somebody makes a sale.
So this is a really interesting point, because like for me, I don't have any products on my site right now. I probably should, but I don't have anything on my site. And to be honest, I don't really know. Like I have my own stuff, which is pretty much all involves working with me in some capacity. We're getting stuff evergreen right now.
Sure.
But how, for someone who doesn't, is like, oh, okay, yeah, I know what you mean by ads. I've seen those. I hate them. They're weird.
I hate them too,
How
but
would
they
you
work.
yeah, right. But like, how do you recommend if you don't have your own stuff, finding complementary industries, keeping it tasteful, like you said,
Sure.
or putting your own stuff on there in a way that's not going to turn the viewer off?
Well, you've been to a site before where it's a lot of advertising and you're pretty much blind to it. And
Yeah,
you're
it's like
like,
glazes over.
yeah, it glazes over and you're like, I'm good. This is too much.
Totally. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So don't do that. Okay. That's the first big thing, right?
First tip, don't do
First
that.
tip, don't do that. Second, there's about 3 key places to place an ad that it's expected to be
Okay.
in a way, but it's not offensive. One place is in one particular template that we use, there's a video, and directly under the video, there's a little ad.
Okay.
That doesn't interfere with you watching the video. It's not
That's true.
interruptive. It's very passive. It's right there.
Mm.
If you're gonna scroll down probably to read some of it, so you're gonna see it.
Mm.
Right, no big deal. The margins are a really good place to put ads, right? And
Okay.
not to put 30 ads, to put 2 ads, you know?
Mm.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. They can point at your programs. They could point at your um uh your consultative call,
Totally.
right? At the bottom is a really good place. The bottom of your article or your synopsis of the interview or training, that's a really
Mm.
good place. If you like this type of thing and you want to go deeper, I invite you to apply to have a phone call with me. Click here. It's very simple.
Mm.
It's not, I'm not being rude. I'm not saying you have to. I'm not giving you
Yeah.
the features and benefits. I'm just saying if you like this type of thing and you want to get some specialized help, I'm happy to help you.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to putting ads for, like, let's say you're going to work with something complimentary, like you don't have, you're building out your own products and services,
Hmm.
but you want to put something that your audience is going to resonate with, and it's something obviously you believe in, because you don't want to, promote stuff that you're not sure if it works or you haven't used, whatever.
Right.
How would you, like, how have you secured those partnerships for your clients, and how do you pick which ones would be most beneficial?
Well, this is where we're getting into AMP and what AMP is. So
Okay.
you
I
mentioned
actually don't
it.
even know what AMP is. So
Right. And we didn't talk about it. We didn't really talk about what we're talking about right now beforehand.
No, we never
We're
have.
really just talking, right?
Yeah.
So let me address this by explaining a little bit about what AMP is,
Okay.
and then it starts to, your question becomes ultra relevant at that point.
Cool.
Okay. So most people have a message. They have a thing that they're trying to get out there. Okay. And that's what the M stands
Mm.
for. And that's where a lot of people really start.
Mm.
Okay. But we need to go and we need to back up at the A. And the A stands for audience. So you really need to know who you're talking to get your message out there. You want to resonate with the audience that you're trying to. And a really good example that I like to give is, even if you're talking about InstaFame, for example,
Mhm.
right? If you were going to give an example to someone who is in their 40s and that was your market, you might talk about Miss Pac-Man, but you're
It's
not going
true.
to talk about Miss Pac-Man to a 20-year-old. It's not going to have the same effect.
Mm.
And you're not going to talk about Miss Pac-Man to a 60-year-old either, because it's going to have a different effect. To a 60-year-old, if you were going to use an example, you might use an example about Jimi Hendrix and the Doors,
Right.
right? You're not going to use an example about Nirvana, Metallica, Kurt Cobain, Axl Rose, and Slash. It's different. So you talk to them different. Even if you're doing the same thing, you talk to your audience differently. And that's why it's so important to dial in and do that ground research to find out who your audience is and then speak to them. You want to know about their daily routine. The daily routine for somebody who's 25 is different than the daily routine of somebody who's 55. They have different problems.
It's so funny you say those numbers, and I really want to double click on this because this is something that I talk a lot about with growing your social. Is I remember once I was working with someone and we were in the very beginning stages, and I was like, well, talk to me about what you do. And she's like, I help 25 to 55-year-old women with their dating lives. I was like, what? Do you think a 25-year-old woman has anywhere near the same life experience, expectations, everything that a 55-year-old woman does?
Right.
Dating, like, no, we're talking different worlds.
Right. Let's dial it down a little bit more. Let's narrow it up.
But people get freaked out to do this.
They do.
Because they're sort of like, well, John, but like I can help moms and I can help, you know, single women and I can help this age range. And they get like, especially in the beginning stages, they get this real fear around, well, I'm going to repel the people that don't exactly fit that, but I can still help. So how do you go through that?
Well, you're exactly right. That's exactly what ends up happening. I went through it too. And to draw from earlier in our conversation when I was talking about my story, yeah, I understand the tech stuff. I understand funnels. I could do webinars. I could do all these different things. And I can do Facebook ads. I can do advertising. I've had really good success with Facebook advertising. It came to a point where I had to say, I don't do Facebook ads anymore.
Why?
Why? Because I can't serve everybody. Just like what you're talking about. I don't have the energy and the bandwidth to go deep to go and do Facebook ads. I help a couple of clients at a time with different type of marketing funnels, but our real focus and where we have a lot of success is within our content marketing AMP program, right? So I had to cut all that stuff off, and people really need to do that also. The individual that you're helping with women who are getting into the dating market, you know, that person should really like cut some people off. I don't work with this group of people. I don't work with people who have been previously married. I don't work with people who have children. I only work with people who have children. I only work with people who are recently divorced. I only work with people who are widowed. All that stuff, and you will, like, it ends up taking off, right? So that's the audience aspect of AMP, okay? Then you start refining your message around your audience. You're not catering to your audience, but you are in some ways. You're just using ideas and concepts that are relevant to them, right? If somebody is, you know, their husband died and they're at a point in their life where they want to start dating again, that's a different conversation. And you're going to use different metaphors, different examples. You're going to draw from different places than somebody who is, you know, 22, 25 years old, who's never been married, who doesn't have any children, who's just starting their career, like all these different, it's a different conversation. It's the example when I was speaking with someone yesterday about this. It's like Johnson's baby oil. Okay. Johnson's baby oil. You might have some beauty tips using Johnson's baby oil. You might have some cleaning tips around Johnson's baby oil. You might, it can be used in massage. It can be used in all kinds of different things, but it's not called Johnson's all-purpose oil. It's called Johnson's baby oil. Okay.
Right.
It's not called all-purpose tape. It's called duct tape because it's for fixing ducts and putting them together. But you've seen people like put together a car and all kinds of stuff with duct tape, right? It's not called car tape. It's called duct tape. So once you narrow that market, then other people can come into it because you're really good. Just like with the tape, just like with the oil. right? You'll get people who are not in your market coming to hear from you because your tips are and your strategies and tactics are really good, right? And that's where refining your message really comes in. And then now you're in a dialogue and a conversation, right? It's kind of like you talk to your mom differently than you talk to your best friend.
Yeah.
Right? You can tell them the same story, but you're gonna use different words. You're gonna position the sentences a little bit differently, right? So that's
Totally.
refining your message. And now, once you establish that rapport, because you have got to establish a rapport with your audience, and again, by connecting with them at a deeper level than just, all purpose tape, right? That's when you can start saying, hey, you know what? You might be having this certain problem. And I found this product that works really, really well for it. I love it. And I think you ought to give it a try. And that's how you bridge over into that product. So it turns into, it turns into, during your message, it turns into, hey, you know what? If you're really serious about this and you'd like to go deeper, I'd love to invite you to schedule a call with me. And we get really good success with that. It might be something to where, if you like this type of thing and you want to go deeper, my friend Ella has a really fantastic program called InstaFame Academy, and I think you should take a look at it.
This is really cool because I think, and like myself included, I'm totally guilty of this. I really think that there's been a lack of attention on really making sure that we know who our audience is, because that's the key thing, right? If you're going to, messaging, everything revolves around that. So would you say, for somebody who's listening and they're like, oh my God, I need to figure out my audience. Like I just realized I'm kind of talking to the void and I'm trying to appeal to a lot of people and it's diluting my message. Would you say the easiest place to start is your gender, your age range for the majority, or does it
doesn't
matter?
have to be. No,
Okay.
I don't think it matters. No, I don't think it matters at all. It's at the end of the day, if you're established in your business and you're making some sales and you're having some fun and you're working with all kinds of different clients, who do you like working with the most? That's where I would start if I was
I
going to
love
be
that.
narrowing it down. Who do you like working with the most? You know what? You might really like working with women who were widowed and are looking to get back into the dating thing. You really might. You might like working with women who are divorced. You might like working with women who their grandparents on Social Security and they've been single for a long time and they just threw everything at their kids and then everything at their grandkids, and now's the time for them to start focusing on themselves a little bit more. You might really like working with women who are just starting their career and because they're the most fun to work with. So I would pick who you like working with the most. And you have to balance that with who has the ability to pay, because you might charge really high fees. And the woman who's just starting her career, well, you know what? She's just starting her career and she's got a lot of disposable income at this point. Even though she has those student loans to pay, she might be able to see the value in what you're talking about and pay you the fees that you're interested in. When the person who you can really help with their pain issues, they might be on a fixed income on Social Security, government assistance or something, and they really don't have the ability to pay. So you might have to go, and even though you like working with them the most, you might have to go to your second tier person that you really like working with the most, who might be, maybe it's somebody in their 30s or 40s who was just in a car accident and they suffer chronic back pain, and you can really help them. But here's the cool thing. When you go and you build that bridge essentially to go and help that particular market, now you can go and pro bono the people who are on the fixed income, and it's not going to affect you in the ability to pay your team. So you can go help the people who you really, really like working with, who are in their 70s and 80s, who are in chronic pain. Right. So, I would start with, who do you like working with the most? Then who has the ability to pay the fees that you command? Because you should be paid what you're worth. You should be paid what your value is. And you should go and find that. But then once you go and get some of that, you know, I mean, I don't really like viewing it this way. I look at it in terms of providing the value to the person and being compensated for that. But once you go and get the money, essentially, go and take some of that money and allocate it towards a pro bono type of service, somebody who can't afford you, but you really just like helping people.
This is really true in the sense that starting with a bleeding heart can make it very, very hard to get going.
Very.
And a lot of, you know, all of us hopefully have some sort of aspiration that's a little bit bigger than ourselves that we want to make a difference in or work with or make a change with, whatever. But it's a lot easier to get ourselves stable and get that going. And then there's a lot more to give to that cause, to that movement, to those people, whatever it might be.
Exactly.
And I really like, sorry, go ahead.
I said, no, I was agreeing exactly that.
And I love the fact that you're bringing this up, because if I would have done this earlier, it would have saved me so many headaches. Because initially, when Instagram made its way to the forefront of my business very organically, I was like, all right, I just work with people who want to have a social media presence. And I kind of assumed everybody had a similar outlook that I did. I'm like, yeah, they know they can connect with wicked people and they can really like make a difference with this. And a lot of people just wanted to pay to be popular. And I was like, man, I cannot get behind this. And it took me probably a year to really get to the point where I was like, that's it. I'm only working with entrepreneurs, business owners, people who are passionate about what they're doing, and they just need help getting the message out there. They can't figure out this social thing. And because I have a lot of growth agencies and all the time that reach out to me and are like, hey, do you want to partner? Every single time one of them sees my stuff, they're like, oh my God, how do you get people to pay these prices? Right. We can't get someone to pay $150 a month, let alone $2,000 for a group training program. Right. And I'm like, well, that's hilarious. It's because this is who I work with. Right. And it's a different mentality. And so I love the fact, start with who you really want to serve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you did the same thing that I did. I don't want to serve Facebook ads, so I cut it off.
There you go.
Yeah. It's just part of the process, I think.
Right. So the P in AMP stands
products.
For product, correct?
Yes. Okay. And yeah, I could have revealed that earlier and I didn't. Yeah, it stands for products. So it's having and introducing the appropriate product that aligns with your audience and your message. So yeah, if your message is natural health and weight loss, you're not going to go and offer a weight loss product that's like full of, speedy drugs that are made in a lab. It doesn't align with it. It doesn't
get your Adderall here.
Right. Whatever it is, right? It doesn't match. So you're not I mean, you could go do it, but you're not going to get a result. You're going to get discouraged. It's going to hurt your brand because it's like, wait a minute, they're teaching me this natural stuff and they're offering me this like weird thing that's chemical. Oh, you're going to turn people off.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, you're going to break that rapport. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. Absolutely. So, I mean, that's exactly it. Now, the thing is your this becomes apparent, what I'm about to say. This becomes apparent in giveaways. Okay. That's where this becomes like, duh. All you have to do is offer something that your market wants. Right. Okay. So in a giveaway, let's say you're doing a giveaway and your giveaway, let's say you work with in the physical fitness sort of market, whatever the physical fitness sort of market is, right? You could go and do a giveaway to gain leads, and your giveaway could be, gosh, I don't know. It could be kettlebells.
Right.
Right. It could.
Yeah.
Or you could give away an iPad. Right.
Yeah.
And a lot of people want that stupid iPad.
Yeah.
And you might get a better result, but you're also going to attract some people that are not in your market. So you have to balance this out, but people actually have to want what it is that you're making the offer to. It doesn't have to be directly related to your message itself is where I'm coming from.
I like that you're bringing this up because there's a lot of examples of this. Like one of the reasons that I believe why I was just reading about this the other day. Kylie Jenner is the only billionaire. She's the youngest. She's the only billionaire in the Kardashian Jenner clan is because she gave the market what they wanted. They wanted makeup.
Right.
Right. That's who follows them. And like, think what you will of them. I don't know them. I can't pass judgment, but that's smart. Like it's smart marketing. And I think it happens to be from what I've seen, it happens to be what she was into as well. But regardless, it's like, oh, well, there's a really natural fit there.
Absolutely. It's the same in music. Okay. So let's go and let's use a music example. I love music. I like how different groups form different groups over the years and how music changes and all these different things. And do you know the Bee Gees? That's okay. That's okay. I'm putting you on the spot. That's okay.
I could not name you a song.
That's okay. The Bee Gees were like this raging, super popular disco group in the middle to late 70s. Okay. And you know, their music was featured in Saturday Night Fever, and it was just a rockin' soundtrack. Highlights many Bee Gees songs. Okay. So that's disco. If you go and you listen to the album called The Bee Gees First, which was their first album, it sounded like the Beatles.
No way.
Yeah. See? So the market changed. They gave the market what the market wanted, and they continued forward. They didn't fizzle. Absolutely. You can hear that in Billy Joel's music as Billy Joel went through the years and everything like that. You can hear it in Steve Winwood. Steve Winwood was part of a band called Traffic back in the day, and they were like this rockin' jammy kind of band. And Steve Winwood wrote some really popular 80s pop, not pop songs, but like maybe adult contemporary, but they were really popular. You know, Eric Clapton is the same sort of way. It's still blues based, but it has a different feel as it goes through the 70s and 80s and onward. You know, when Cream back in this, like, it was just like this raw bluesy, like raw, you know, so he gave the market what the market wanted, and he continued forward. It's the same thing with what it is that you're doing, because you know what, the people who are teaching MySpace for marketing, you know, they pivoted probably and started doing Facebook marketing and things like that. You would hope so, but the ones that didn't, right? And the ones that were teaching Google Hangouts, well, they must have pivoted to YouTube Live. They must have pivoted to Zoom. They must have pivoted to something, or they're not here.
Yeah.
You know, so absolutely, you have to resonate with your market, and that's again, what is your audience? Who is your audience? What do they want? Align your message with it and mold your message into connecting that rapport, and then give them the things and the products that they're interested in to complete that gap.
This is so good. And I really appreciate that you used all male examples in the music industry. Only because I don't know, and I know you weren't like,
it just came to mind. Yeah.
No,
we could do the same thing with women,
guys. Yeah. But I think, and maybe this might be just messaging we get as women sometimes, but it's a lot of time we're shown that like it's the women who need to change because they become irrelevant. It's like Madonna who needs to reinvent herself way more than Will Smith or way more than Justin Timberlake or whatever. Right. But I love that you use male examples because it made me realize it's like, I mean, maybe it has something to do with the gender inequality, but it's also just smart. It's smart marketing. It's a way of relating really to your audience as they evolve. And this is actually, I just got a question for you.
Go for it. Love it.
All right. So this is something that, especially with picking a specific audience, another freak out point tends to be, well, if I pigeon myself into only helping women who are widowed with their dating lives, what happens if I don't, if I want to help somebody else? And what I always, when I'm speaking about someone to this, I'm like, look, you're going to evolve with your audience. Who I can help now is really different than 2 years ago. But and actually I'm going through a pivot right now in my market, and these pivots are really scary because you're kind of like, okay, well, like, shit, does this mean a rebrand? Like, do I need to change my website? How is this going to shift my messaging? So how do you recommend going about that?
Well, I think it's different for different situations. Okay. So let's give some, let's just put some ideas out there. Well, I'll use one for me, right? My original brand that I was working with a lot when I got started was called Your Perfect Sales Funnel, right? Because we were going to build your perfect sales funnel, and that was it. You know, I decided that sales funnels, while they're fun, they're, you know, they're big and complicated, and
There's a lot.
There is, and then at that same sort of time, a lot of the messaging in the overall market started shifting to a journey, a customer journey. And then that puts a bad taste in people's mouth for sales funnels, because sales funnels were all the rage for a while. So what do I do? Right? So what I ended up doing is I took Your Perfect Sales Funnel and I splintered it into two different brands. Essentially, I'm still doing the same sort of work, but now I've splintered it into two different brands, two completely new brands. And it allows me the energy to focus on building one until I get that thing running with or without me, type of thing, so that I can pivot and go and build this other brand up, simultaneously. So I've gone with tear down the entire thing to, we'll focus on one and get that going, and then we'll focus on the other one and get that going. And, sometimes you need to rebrand it. You need to take it all down. Sometimes you need to add it. Sometimes you need to incorporate it within it. Right. So, let's look at, it's almost like coming up with a new avatar. People use avatar or marketing persona or whichever label you want to call it. It's all the same thing. Let's say that you want to work with small businesses, brick and mortar businesses. And then you're like, oh, well, there's a lot of online people that are coming to ask me to do e-commerce stores. Okay, well, I only work with brick and mortar. Okay, do I want to start adding that service in my brick and mortar brand? Or do I want to create a second brand that's alongside of it and start moving them into that brand itself? That's how I've approached it. It's worked generally well for me. I don't know if it's the best way, but it works for me.
So you're saying the way that's been working the best for you is incorporating it into what you have now.
It depends.
Is that right?
Well, it depends. It really does. So right now, okay, so let me give you an idea. So QueueSimple, right?
Yeah.
The reason that it's QueueSimple is because it's an easy process. It's simple. Okay. And it's queue because it's like the queue, like the line, right? So what you're doing is you're taking your content, you're queuing it into place, you're releasing it out, and it's this simple sort of process. You're also using automation and email type of marketing as a central piece. The other social pieces are there, but the main drive is to get people onto that email list. And part of the email list is having like a drip campaign or even I don't know, like your newsletter type of email where you might queue that up. So it's QueueSimple. It's kind of built into this name. Marketing funnels don't really fit into that too well. So I use a different brand. But someone with a podcast, okay, I think I could help someone with a podcast. That's part of QueueSimple. I really like working with people with podcasts. Let me create some podcast specific branding and content to attract more people that have podcasts into this particular brand. Let's see, people with YouTube channel. Yeah, that's pretty good. Someone who wants to focus on a webinar. Well, that's not really QueueSimple. That's something different. So I established the bounds on what the brand is, and then it's,
I like that.
Do I incorporate it, or do I have it as part of the other brand, or I don't do that, right? So Facebook ads, somebody comes to Facebook ads and they say, help me with Facebook ads. I'm sorry, I don't do that. I can make an introduction to someone who does, and they, you know, they do all the work that for the clients that I have. They do all the Facebook ads for those people, and they do a really good job. You know, they get really good results. Would you like an introduction? And that's how I do that. What's that? No, that's what I say. That's what I say to them.
You're so engaging. I'm like, yeah, that'd be great. Of course, I'd love an introduction. I know. I'm like, well, what?
That's what I'm saying to the person to the hypothetical person who's asking me if I do Facebook advertising.
And if you're listening to this and you're like, oh my God, I need to incorporate this into my marketing, or you're like, what's a drip campaign? What's a funnel? What is this? Jon has just launched, and I highly recommend you check this out. He's just launched his very own office hours. So it's like a very small donation to his PayPal, and you can attend. No, I'm joking. It's free, correct?
I was like, we didn't incorporate that. Wait a minute.
Well,
that sounds good.
No, I'm joking. It's free, but tell us about your office hours and how people can find information about it.
Absolutely. So to explain office hours, I need to just back up for just a second.
Just a minute.
Okay. And I'm going to explain this idea about building bridges inside of your business. Because that's I
love this concept. This is a treat.
This is cool, right? So that's what office hours is built around, is building bridges. Okay. So imagine you're here. Okay. And this is a cliff that you're on. You're right over here on this cliff. And let's say that over here is your pot of gold, whatever it might be. The reason that you're in business in the first place is a lot of people's pot of gold, right?
And for everyone listening on the podcast right now, Jon is just holding his hands about 1 feet apart. One hand is the cliff, the other hand is the pot of gold.
The other hand is the pot of gold on the cliff. So you're on the cliff over here, and the pot of gold is on this other cliff over here.
Gotcha.
Okay. Cool. So thanks for reminding me about the podcast. I'll work that in so it makes sense, right? So you're over here on this one cliff, and you want to get to the other cliff. So you decide, hey, I'm going to build a bridge. Okay. So in your business, you do this a lot, and you go and you listen to a podcast. Perhaps you listen to a webinar, you go and read some blogs, and boy, they're talking about, I don't know, Facebook advertising, right? So you're like, light bulb moment, Facebook advertising. I need some of that in my business. So you go and you start implementing it, and you start building that bridge over to that pot of gold. But then this weird thing happens as entrepreneurs, and we start, because we're always listening to things. We're always reading. We're interested, right? We get this other idea, and some smart person somewhere says, you know what you need in your business? You need a webinar. And you go, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't think about that before. I need a webinar. That's going to solve my problem to get me to my pot of gold. And then you go all the way back to the cliff that you started on, and you start building the bridge over to the pot of gold using the webinar. Something weird happens about halfway through, and somebody says, you know what? Webinars are dead. They don't work anymore. What you really need is this thing called a sales funnel. And you go, oh my God, how could I be so silly? I can't believe it. I was sold on this webinar thing, and they don't even work anymore. Let me go all the way back to my cliff and start building my bridge over to my pot of gold using a sales funnel. You know what? At the end of the day, what you have is a bunch of half-built bridges. And a half-built bridge And a half-built bridge is more dangerous than not building any bridge at all, because you invested all the time, energy, money, resources. If you have a team, you built your staff, you've got their morale to think about. You're pulling them off halfway, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, we didn't even get to finish that thing we were working on, and now we're working on this other thing, and now I'm confused, and you have all these different things going on. When you know what? If you just build that bridge over to that pot of gold and finish it and complete it and implement it into your business, you can go and you can take some of that gold from the one cliff over there, and you can go walk back across the bridge to the cliff that you started on and start building another bridge over to the pot of gold. So you can start building that second bridge. Okay.
I love the way you explain this, and I think it's so valuable. And I never thought about it before. I don't know if it's the fact that I have ADHD or whatever, but when I get into something, I get into it. So I'm curious to hear your take on this. What I would say to anyone who's like, well, oh my God, I have 5 half-built bridges and I never realized it, is start with the thing you are most interested in. Because it will be easy. I'm talking about the thing, meaning the way of reaching your people. It will be the easiest to stay with. Like, I was really interested in Instagram. I just wanted to figure it out. And I stayed with tunnel vision on it for almost a year. Absolutely. And then all of a sudden, it's a huge part. And not like all of a sudden, but honestly, like, it wasn't this wasn't a game plan. It was like, I'm just curious about this thing. And so then I built that, and that was a fully built bridge, and I got it, and I can teach it and everything. And then I got really interested in doing live trainings, learning how to teach well, getting in front of other people's audiences. And I did like 30 live trainings in a period of 4 months and learned how to run a live masterclass and how to give a good webinar and the different ways to script them. And so I love I for sure have some half-built bridges, but I think that one thing that served me really well, and it's probably like, email marketing in my business is shit. Like, it's not well done. It's not consistent. Like, this is something I need to incorporate right now. Hopefully, maybe if you're listening in a year, it's not as bad. But right now, it's not even started, basically, right? There's like, oh, there could be a bridge there, but there's nothing. So I love the fact that you're saying, like, what I actually questioned, how would you tell somebody to decide what the first fully built bridge would be?
Well, I mean, it's going to be the one that is the lowest hanging fruit, essentially. Right? So your lowest hanging fruit was to go and like rock this Instagram like to the moon. Right? And just really learn it and get it down and have fun with it. And you started having results, and it provided a lot of value to people, and you were able to take some of that value back. And then you went and did your live trainings, and that was the lowest hanging fruit for you at the time. But what you weren't doing is going, okay, I need to go and do a massive industry-wide product launch.
No.
Whoa, wait a minute. That's heavy. Okay.
And it might have been smart, like maybe, and an alternate life, it could have been smarter to do that, but it wouldn't have been smarter for me at the time who I was.
But let's take it to the extreme, right? Think about doing an industry-wide product launch. You need to go and you need at least a person and sometimes a whole team to go out and find people to promote for you. And then you need to go and to create the marketing to market to the people who are going to promote for you, to get them engaged enough to actually promote for you. And then you need to incentivize them, and you need to have prizes, and you need to have games, and you need to have all this other stuff on top of this other massive promotion that you're doing. You could be $250,000 plus in the hole before you even get off the ground. And it takes 6 months. And over that time, you could have done how many live trainings that brought in all this extra, bits and from the pot of gold.
I like what you're saying in the sense that it depends on where you are and what's smartest at the time. And what the pot of gold is right now. Because I think the pot of gold that we're like the metaphorical pot of gold we're talking about is always evolving.
It can be. Absolutely.
That's the thing. Yeah.
But here's the other thing. If you have, let's say you have a sales funnel, Okay. And we're talking about sales. We're kind of going all over the map here, and it's a lot of fun. I hope your audience is really enjoying the you know, the width of how far we're going with some various ideas. But let's say you have a marketing funnel, and it's the standard type of funnel where somebody opts in. Okay. They put in their email address, they opt in. And on the next page is a thank you page that thanks them for opting in and then offers them a, an impulse buy. Right. And then after that, they ascend to, a modularized type of course. And then after that, you ask them to schedule an appointment. You really ascend them up the value ladder, essentially, to do business with you. Right. And you build this whole thing out, and it's wonderful. Right. And then you start doing Facebook ads, right? That's probably an appropriate type of approach. But what happens a lot of times is people have like a $2,000 program and they're sending Facebook ads to it. Well, right. that really doesn't work. You need some things in place and in front of it. So you need the bridge of like a lead generation device, because otherwise you're going to pay to send people to this $2,000 sales letter, and you're going to spend thousands and thousands of dollars for people who are not going to buy from you. And you're going to have no way to bring them back unless you're paying for retargeting ads, which is another expense. It becomes more expensive.
I think sorry, keep going.
Well, the idea is, if you have a sales funnel that's leaky, throwing traffic at it is a waste.
Yeah.
Okay. So your next bridge to cross is to optimize your sales process so that you're getting the results that you can be getting, and you're not like spilling money all over the floor. Right. So let's go and like pick some of that money up and shore up your funnel and plug the holes that are in this funnel bucket, for example. And then imagine a bucket, right? You have a bucket, and the bucket has all these holes in it, and you're trying to fill up this bucket so you can like fill up your swimming pool or something, right? So you're filling up this bucket, but water's just like flowing all over the place. And you go and you like bring it over to your swimming pool, and it's just like, you barely got anything out of it. It's going to take you a ton of time to fill that swimming pool. But you know what? If you just went out and, grabbed some all-purpose tape, some duct tape, right, and taped up that bucket, right, and blocked up those holes, now you can fill that bucket up with water and actually bring it over to the pool and dump it in. You're going to get more bang for your buck, essentially. So, turning the water on faster isn't going to help you. Right.
This is such a good point.
You see what I mean? Like moving the swimming pool closer, that might help you, but not as much as plugging the damn holes in the bucket.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's the bridge. And it's probably different for people depending on where they're at in their business.
Totally.
Yeah. Totally. So, but it's the next bridge that somebody should build really is the one that's going to provide them the most satisfaction, for one, but also the one that is, it gives you the lowest hanging fruit. It achieves it
creates momentum, right? When you start to get wins, it creates momentum. And also you're able to reach the people that you can help right now the most efficiently.
100%. 100%. Yeah. So go and where's the lowest hanging fruit? I had one company, and the lowest hanging fruit was all we did. He had an offer, okay, and the offer was like $35 a month or something like that. And it was a continuity program. And the way that it worked was with an ascension funnel. So what happened is somebody put in their email address to get a thing, whatever that thing was. And then they said, hey, why don't you join our program if you like the thing, right? And it worked pretty well. They were like, okay, well, we need a new program and we need a new product to sell, and we need to go create this other stuff. And that's heavy, right?
That's heavy. A new product, that's heavy.
It is. So you know what we did? We came in and I said, you know what? Let's just build a new lead magnet, a new free offer that also offers to the same thing.
Mm.
And it was like, oh, okay. So we bolted that on the front. And then what we were able to do is the people who came into the funnel, they had seen the offer before. They had seen it offered for $1 trial. They had seen it over and over again, and they didn't buy it. But when we put them through a new lead magnet, for some reason, something triggered in them, and they bought in and they joined, and it was worth like $10,000 or $15,000 every time we just added a new lead magnet and sent an email.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So it was lowest hanging fruit, but we built that bridge. We built a complete lead magnet bolt on that just went right in. And then you know what? Let's go try it again.
This is so good.
Cool.
This is so cool. Okay. I could talk to you all day. I literally messaged Jon. I was like looking at the week and what was going to happen. And I was like, I really want to bring somebody in for a training this week. And I literally messaged Jon on Monday being like, hey, can you come in for a training? And he was just like, absolutely. I'll move stuff around. So he's incredible. I'm going to link his office hours, his social, his website, right. Everything will be in the notes. I'll put it in the Facebook group if you're watching there, or in the podcast notes if you're listening on the podcast. But I could talk to you all day.
Yeah, the link is the reason why we had to get into the pot of gold is because it's QueueSimple.com/gold.
Oh, okay.
Because that's where your pot of gold
I cut off your story.
That's okay. That's okay. We go down all these different rabbit holes, but that's the reason why we're talking about the pot of gold. The pot of gold is found at office hours, and you can come to office hours and you can ask all your questions. And I'll stay on. It's basically an ask me anything Q&A type of conversational environment. There's no charge for it. I'm not going to sell you anything. There's no bait and switch. I'm not going to try to get your credit card, all these different things. It's Thursday mornings at 8:00 Pacific, and it's QueueSimple.com/gold.
I love it. Awesome. Okay. So let's finish off with some rapid fire questions, because I always find these super interesting.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. What is the best thing you bought lately that's under $100?
The best thing that I bought that's under $100. I know what it is, and I don't have it with me. Does it have to do with business? Does it have to be a business thing?
No, it's okay. It's just something you bought. Yeah.
I bought this tuning fork. Ooh. Okay. I know. It's right. It's this tuning fork that is inside of music. Okay. The way that you form an octave is you cut the wave in half, or you make the wave twice as big. Okay. So there's this idea of the Schumann resonance, and the Schumann resonance is the frequency that the earth is vibrating at, essentially. Huh. And this tuning fork vibrates at 12 times the Schumann resonance. And what you can do is you can place this tuning fork, you strike the tuning fork, and then you can place it like on your face or on your eyes or on your chest or things like that. And it helps you to relax.
Cool.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I love that answer. Second question. What is the book that you gift most often?
The book that I gift most often is probably Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
I love that book.
Such a good book.
I use things from that book every single day. It's incredible.
It is.
I agree with that. And last question. If you could have dinner with anyone, real or fictional, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. This has changed so much over the years. I think I'm still going to go with my default, and it's my guitar hero, Trey Anastasio from the band Fish, if you're familiar with the band Fish.
And why?
Why? He's probably created more music in the past 30 years than anybody really that I can think of. From Fish is an improvisational rock band, so they just go on stage essentially and they play their songs, but there's improvisational sections that are created from just the energy in the room and the dynamic of the band. And they weave this musical fabric that is just, it's not like jazz where in jazz you have these sections and somebody takes a solo. It's like everybody is soloing and being creative all at the same time. And it creates this like this texture in a way. And it's just amazing. And so he's got this with this band Fish, and he creates these compositions of songs that are just really intricate and very, very well put together. And then he'll go and he'll arrange it for an orchestra and go and play it with an orchestra. And then he'll go and have his band, the Trey Anastasio band, that has a whole other leg of music that is just a completely different band. And then he'll go and write music for a Broadway musical. And it's just on and on, all of this different stuff. So it's just this continuous flow of creativity that I really admire. And I'd love to sit down for a meal.
That's incredible. Okay. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you for sharing all your wisdom. If you guys like this, put a comment in the Facebook group, send me a DM or get in touch with Jon if you're listening on the podcast, and let us know, because we could maybe bring Jon back for a part 2. Who knows?
Yeah, I'd love to. That would be fun.
Yeah. But again, if you want more of him, the easiest way is office hours.
Yeah.
It's a really fun format. I'm going to be popping in there. So come hang out, ask your questions. As you can see, he has a ton of value. And thanks again for being here. This was awesome.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm glad it's a real privilege and an honor to join you.
Ah, you're such a sweetheart. All right. And thank you for listening. We will catch you next week.